Hello. We were discussing about strategy. Now, whatever may be your strategy, whether it is differentiation based or it is focus based or low cost based, ultimately in services business, you have to deliver to the customer, consumer, more value than they expected. So, the post consumption perception of value delivered to a consumer must be more than the pre-consumption expectation created by the value positioning of the service. So, value that you expected before you approach the service, if that is exceeded as per your perception after the service consumption, then you have a chance for delighting. Then the service business will be in the zone where they can cause delight and gain customer loyalty and advocacy. Now, ultimately the success in a services business is raised on this foundation of P minus E, perception exceeding expectation. Now, whatever may be your strategy, it is this value delivered will be the key measurement in customer's mind. So, when a customer perceives the value received, in that there is a certain cognitive or logical part, and there are a number of other emotional or affective parts. Within that cognitive framework for recognizing value received, price is a key, almost the core. So, in some respect, therefore, the price charged by the service business is a cost of acquisition to the cost of use for the consumer, and that cost is compared in customer's mind with respect to the value perceived. So, in service business, it is somewhat difficult and on the other hand somewhat easier to create this value perception, which we will understand as we discuss during this session and in the following couple of sessions, different aspects as detailed in our textbook, in chapter number 6. So, chapter number 6 in this textbook is titled as Setting Price and Implementing Revenue Management. Revenue management is an advanced concept, quite applicable or rather more applicable in the services business as opposed to in the goods business. But before we get into those interesting areas of price setting in services business, let us review today some fundamentals about the art and science of pricing. It is art and science because a good part of the pricing consideration can be calculated, tabulated, figured out quantitatively, but there are several elements still which almost is intuitive art, deep understanding of the consumer psychology, deep understanding of the different occasions and situations in which service is sought and delivered, and those basket of capabilities are in the realm of art of pricing. So, there is a science and there is an art of pricing, but ultimately the role of pricing is to deliver current profit, deliver growth in market share. So, typically the pricing objective, here I have taken for an example, I have chosen an organization called 6 Ballygunge Place. It is a service business for delivering traditional Bengali cuisine in different fusion mode, in a fusion with certain continental and European dishes and in very modern ambience. They have number of restaurants which they run in Calcutta. They also have catering service to serve banquets and parties and so on. And I think they are now developing certain new other service businesses like home delivery of for smaller parties, etc. Now, for pricing strategy of such a business, one fundamental consideration will be growth, and growth which will be measured in terms of current profit and growth in terms of market share when 6 Ballygunge Place competes with similar other restaurants like Bhojahari Manna or like O Calcutta, or they compete with alternative food and beverage services like other restaurants, other catering services and so on. So, in pricing policy therefore, to remembering that it is to give us current profit, give us growth in market share, give us revenue growth as well as profitability growth, the policy setting can be described by this particular diagram which is in front of you, where we select the pricing objective and we compare that with respect to, or rather that is derived or sort of interactive with the determining demand, and we have to estimate cost. We also have to analyze the competitors' costs, competitors' prices and the entire range of offering from the competitors. So, when 6 Ballygunge Place is trying to determine their pricing strategy, they have to look at the pricing strategy of Bhojahari Manna or of O Calcutta. They have to also look at the comparable other restaurants at Park Street and other places in Calcutta and their pricing policies. They have to compare, they have to understand the 5-star hotel and the restaurants and their pricing policies. So, they have to therefore determine the pricing of competitors who are at the horizontal level, that means they are peers, pricing of competitors who are positioning themselves at a higher price level, and pricing strategy of restaurants who are actually positioning themselves a little down on the scale. And then one has to select a pricing method and select a final price. We cannot have a discussion on pricing without having a discussion on costs, and as you know, there are two types of costs. Some are fixed costs, we often call them sunk costs, because these are costs on which as a manager you may not have much of control. That means the infrastructure or the place that has been rented, or the salaries of long term employees, fixed salaries which are not or at least the fixed component of all salaries, and electricity bill, average, and other stuff. So these are costs which are fixed with respect to the volume of sales. So whether you run your restaurant 5 days in a week, or you run your restaurant 3 days in a week or 7 days in a week, there are certain costs which will remain unaltered, like rent. There will be some of the costs are semi variable, like the electricity cost. To some extent it will be variable with respect to your hours of operation and so on, but it will not vary with respect to the your volume of sales, for example, because that has many other variables embedded in that. So there are therefore some variables which are some fixed costs which are quite fixed, like the rental of the place. Some costs are fixed costs are somewhat fixed, somewhat variable, like the electricity bill or your generator fuel bill and so on. Then of course there are costs which are totally variable. That means they are quite tightly tied to the number of units sold, or number of dishes delivered, or number of parties served, or number of customers served, and so on. So they are therefore these costs are directly related to the level of production, and these costs are costs of raw material, costs of different ingredients in the case of a food and beverage restaurant, or it could be certain types of ancillary stuff supply, like napkins and so on, etc. So these costs are linked to the number of units delivered or number of units produced. Together they cross the total cost. Now if we have a revenue line, and so the unit cost minus the variable cost which is linked to that unit production gives us the margin per unit, and the total fixed cost divided by that margin per unit gives us the break even volume or the break even sales. That means the level beyond which up to which it is cost recovery, and beyond which we are contributing to the bottom line. Obviously this is almost common sense that if we create a matrix which on one side, that is on the y axis, we have quality, low, medium, high, and price we have high, medium, low, then obviously if the at high quality is delivered at low price, that we can call the super value strategy. A medium level pricing with high quality is high value strategy, and high price with high quality could be the premium strategy. Now price is often also the signal for quality. We know now, as we discussed I think in the previous session, that if you invest well in quality, and if your quality is really good, then in many ways you will be reducing waste of different kinds, which means you will reduce costs of different kind. So if you have a low cost capability and low cost strategy, it is possible that while your product quality will be pretty high, your price, your cost will be quite low, but you need not therefore position yourself at a low price end, but you could actually position yourself at a high value strategy, that means medium price and excellent quality delivered. In many types of services, this is the position that organizations try to achieve. Obviously if you are delivering low quality at high price, that is a rip off strategy, not practically not possible in services business today unless you have some kind of monopolistic position. So certain types of state monopoly, like the electricity supply, sometimes has this rip-off strategy. But really speaking, today with the kind of active consumerism and intense competition and continuous pressure on policy from competitors coming from all over the world, it is very difficult today to be in this low quality high price. So, this is even this overcharging, these quadrants we can actually forget. And really speaking, organizations are now trying to remain within these 4 quadrants, because this low quality low price also is not like, if we take that again back to that example of 6 Ballygunge Place, this low quality low price may be possible in some roadside snack bars and so on, but even there, you know, people will not tolerate low quality for long. So, this quadrant is out, and this 7, 8, 9, these quadrants are out. Really speaking, the most interesting quadrants for us to understand pricing will be these 2, 3, 5 and 6. Overcharging, rip off, false economy, these strategies are really gone, not very possible here. Now, premium strategy in services is sometimes feasible. There could be, you know, like the first class service on Air India or on Singapore Airlines, or this kind of positioning is possible, but mostly we have to look at these 4 quadrants. Obviously, this is the range of pricing. This is the low price beyond which you are in utter loss. So, it is not possible to profit beyond this price level. This is where maybe the 0 profit level, and this is the high price. Actually, this is, you can say, a price beyond which there is no demand, because the price is so high that even the premium positioning is no longer possible. So, between these 2 ends, we have these 3 elements, or 3 C's as we often call them, that is cost, competitors' prices and price substitutes, and customers' assessment of the uniqueness of your service, or in some way also this C stands for the company's objectives and so on. So, between this one end of low price, another end of high price, we have these considerations of the 3 C's which will guide our pricing policy. There can be price policy which is for market penetration. In market penetration, where we sort of set a low price, deliver good quality, we want to attract a large number of buyers, a large market share. So, most entrepreneurial service organizations adopt this type of pricing strategy, and as you can see, the intense competition that is going on now in the field of e-commerce and e-retailing. So, fashion retailing on the web, books and periodicals and music retailing on the web, different types of household stuff retailing on the web, mobile phone, telephone, tablet retailing on the web, intense price competition, and this because they are all trying to grab market share, they are all trying to grab attention of the consumer and trying to persuade the consumer at least come once and experience their website and their transactional platform, with the hope that they will be able to create other hooks and policies by which the customer will continue to play with them. So, market penetration pricing is often the starting point for entrepreneurial service businesses, and the conditions under which this strategy is good, this policy is good, is when the market is highly price sensitive and a low price stimulates market growth, which is one of the strategies being adopted by almost all e-commerce, e-retailing players, because they feel that compared to the physical stores, if customers really find lower prices, then more and more will shift from physical purchasing, physical shopping behavior to electronic shopping behavior. And Also the scale of production, or if there is an economy of scale, that means more volume, obviously your fixed cost per unit will come down if more units are sold. But there are other issues like learning curve and so on, where that means more you sell, the more customers you get, you fine tune your operations, you learn how to delight the customers more and more, and therefore those are benefits which you can develop later once you have, by using your penetration pricing, the customers with you. One thing we have to remember from fundamental economics lesson, that in some cases a reduction in prices will actually cause very little change in the demand. This is called the inelastic demand. So depending on this price versus demand graph, if this graph is actually of this shape, this means that the demand is inelastic, whereas if the graph is of this shape, that means a little change in price can make that means this $10 to $15 change in price can change the demand from 50 to 150. So this is a 50% change in price creates 3 times more demand. This is this understanding that whether the market in which you are operating for your services, how sensitive it is to this elasticity is very important before you actually either reduce or increase your prices. Price, often actually a price is set and price is not normally reduced, but there can be seasonal discounts, you can give different kinds of pricing incentives, bundle pricing, repeat purchase pricing, coupon based attraction to the customer to come back and purchase, that sort of price adjustment strategies can be there. So ultimately there can be 2 approaches to at any point of time when we look at price management. Either we want to initiate price cut or we want to initiate price increase. Price cut can be initiated due to excess capacity or competition or your pricing policy for penetrative pricing. Price increase can be done due to cost inflation or over demand. These days of course price increase can be very seldom deployed because the competition intensity almost negates that possibility. Of course you have to continuously monitor the reactions of customers as well as competitors to price change. You have to be very sure that you are not going to cause a price war unless that is what we want, and if you want to win in the price war, you have to have a very strong handle on your low cost strategy, the low cost strategy that we discussed earlier, or a low cost and focus combination where you will be able to create a bundle of values for a certain segment of customers, there by virtue of which you will be able to shield your pricing from different types of other pressures. So competitors price change, you can, just like they will have these responses, you can have the similar responses to a price change scenario, maintain price or reduce price and increase price and improve quality, etc. Some of these like increase price and improve quality, these are very traditional thinking. In today's world they may not be very valid, but this launching a low price fighter line is often a good strategy in response to an aggressive predatory pricing from a challenger. So this is how at one time when Nirma came with a good product at a very low price, the response from the traditional manufacturers or the organized players of those days, now Nirma itself is a big organized player, but in those days people like Unilever or Procter and Gamble, they responded by launching a low price fighter line. The same thing happens in service businesses as well. So I will conclude today's session by requesting you to read chapter number 6 from the book, which is the chapter titled Setting Prices and Implementing Revenue Management. The initial part of that chapter you are requested to read, and I would like you to think about that An organization like Bhojahori Manna, I introduced that, that they have number of restaurants in Calcutta, in Bombay, Bangalore and other places which serve Bengali cuisine, traditional Bengali cuisine, some exotic Bengali cuisine in modern ambience. Now this organization is in competition with 6 Baliganj Place, in competition with O Calcutta. Some of them are regional players, some of them are national players. And think about, go to the website of Bhojahori Manna, read a little bit about them, read about their competition and think that what should be their pricing policy for next year. We will continue this discussion with a deeper understanding, for your deeper understanding over the next 2 sessions. Thank you.